place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, May 23rd, 2025, and this is episode 1040 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a homestead happening show. And as you can see, I'm not at my own homestead. So this ought to be interesting. I guess I'm going to have to look for a redneck somewhere. I'll look for him in a little bit. Right now, I want to tell you about our featured event of today's show, and that is the Homesteaders Meetup in Knoxville, Tennessee at Strong Roots Resources from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. on June 1st, which is a Sunday. So if you're a churchgoer, you can go to church and still go to the meetup, meet with Homestead's Carrie Brown. We'll be touring all of their permaculture projects over there, and then there's a little bit of food, snacky snack stuff, and you can trade with people, get to know homesteaders in the area. I'm going to be at that one unless I get sick or something. So that's June 1st. Also want to thank two sponsors of today's show. The first sponsor is John Pugliano of the Wealth Studying Podcast. John Pugliano has been supporting this show since day one. And when we launched sponsorship, he was also one of our earliest sponsors. But the cool thing is he's in our network. He walks among us, and he understands the long time preference approach to investing, to building the life you want to live, to setting up a path for yourself. He's also into ham radio and a bunch of other stuff. Check out his podcast at investablewealth.com. Click on podcasts, it's there, or you can download it to your podcatcher. And they're like 15-minute episodes about once a week, just talking about investing and making money. And it's a great way to bone up on that if you're already into investing, as well as if you think you might one day get to be in investing because you're doing so well. The second sponsor of today's show is EMPshield.com. EMP Shield makes a device that protects your whole house from crazy surges in electricity. Like, oh, I don't know, if a tornado blows through and breaks the lines and there's a big surge that takes out all your appliances, but your house was fine, that can still add up to a lot of money replacing your fridge, your stove, your washer, your dryer, any computers that were plugged in, televisions that were plugged in. And that's just the tip of the iceberg about what we have plugged into our power right now. Their device protects you, and they are so confident it will work that they have a $25,000 insurance policy if it fails. Also, if the device works, it also dies. It sacrifices itself for your appliances. So you can send in your broken one to them and get it replaced for only $50. Pretty cool. Check that out, EMPshield.com. If you want $50 off a device, you can use the coupon code LFTN for Living Free in Tennessee to get that done. So from here, we're going to run into our Homestead Happenings update, which is about purpose and passion today. We're going to talk about a lot of discussions we've been having about the purpose, our purpose on the homestead, what we're passionate about, those sorts of things, and also give you a lot of our updates. But in order to do this, I need to find a redneck. Like, where did my redneck go? I don't see a redneck here. Have you seen a redneck anywhere? Oh, there you are, Tactical. What's up?
Well, usual.
The usual what? You're late to the show again?
Oh. Today I actually went out to grab one dog and couldn't find her because she was inside because I didn't actually let her out. So I had to let both of them out. And then one of them begrudgingly came back inside.
Yeah. Slippy says, LOL, the cheese. I love it. Yeah, I was being a little cheesy. I knew where he was. He has a habit of making a cup of, he like walks in the door, makes a cup of coffee, which is loud. And I know he doesn't have this mic on because I have it here, which means he's going over a room mic. Also, your camera is still a bit high. And he tries not to make it super loud, but I was like, he's going to walk in. He's going to do the coffee grind thing. I'm going to be talking. You're going to hear the coffee grinding. So I pulled him out of the studio just to get it in there. Plus, I am in Swoop, Virginia. Does anybody know what Swoop, Virginia is close to that might be of interest to homesteaders? Tactical, do you know what I'm close to?
I know exactly where you are.
So I'm at Polyface Farm today at the Exit and Build Land Summit, which started out great. John Bush like kicked it off with a pretty cool, heartfelt session. He's been going through a lot of changes in the last year, which is interesting. And then Joel Salatin gave a really good talk. They broke for brunch. I came home and they're doing farm tours now. So he and Daniel are taking people on tours of the farm. This is one of those times when I can go out of town and buy my meals at the farm store at Polyface, which I totally did. I spent about $40 on meat today for the next couple of nights dinners. And that was nice because I didn't just have to cram the cooler full of food on the way out. I brought my smallest cooler. It wasn't even full. I had beverages in there instead of food. So that was kind of nice. Anyway, so I'm excited about that. Passionate even about what I'm learning here. Would you say that's true, T?
Probably.
Yeah, so Tactical's getting the play-by-play one-liners over text message, except for sometimes text doesn't work. So what's probably happening is he's getting like 5 at one time and then nothing for hours. Is that what's happening?
I've gotten like 2 or 3.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be interesting for us today, Tactical, to talk about what is the purpose at the Holler Homestead, would you say?
I guess that depends on your perspective. I'm sure mine is very different than yours.
That's why we're having this talk.
I mean, I have not really thought this deeply into it, but yeah, I had a lot of stuff to sort out when I came here, and it's been a long process, but like being in this environment has personally been very good for me and
Right.
allowed me to deal with a lot of my issues.
Was that your purpose for being there, or did that become your purpose after you came there?
I think it's why God put me here, to be blunt. Like, I needed this environment, and so it's where I ended up.
When you go out every morning and you think about what you're going to do on the homestead, what do you see as your function on the homestead?
Um,
Hi, Tigger. Welcome to the live stream.
yeah, the water is empty.
Okay. Well, answer that question, then you can go give him some water.
Yeah. I mean, primarily what I'm mostly doing on a day-to-day basis is, maintaining the animals and trying to make gradual improvements to the property.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk for a bit so you can refill that water. I didn't even realize what he was doing every day exactly. Like, I knew that when we got sheep, he was taking lead on making sure sheep didn't die. And there's a lot to keeping sheep or any livestock alive. What I didn't realize he was doing along the way, because he was so intimately associated with the land, he was basically making small changes by piling up branches here and there and a whole bunch of other stuff to make it both easier to keep the sheep alive, but also to keep more of the topsoil on the homestead and to make the land better over time. Because when I first started the homestead, I was more organic but traditional approach to raising food and homesteading, because that's the only thing I knew about. And I knew who Joel Salatin was, and I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool, but I'm not running pigs, like that sort of thing. And I didn't realize how much it's like the template you get from the Salatin method is a template. It's not the template. but the principles you learn about permaculture and about being regenerative and regenerating the earth as part of your place on it leads you to being a better steward of the land and leaving it better when you leave than when you got there. So um, that's something I didn't realize Tactical was doing, and I don't know that he realizes. I don't know. Were you very strategic about that, or were you just like seeing pieces and going, "Hey, I can improve this place by when this tree comes down, putting the branches there"?
At first, it was not very deliberate, and it was very narrow in the fact that, like, okay, I've got this, box elder that needs to get cut out, and it's got to go somewhere. Instead of burning it, I'll just throw it here. And then as I kind of developed, not even going to say developed the skill set, but like figured out this skill set applied to this property, then I was able to actually start branching out and develop a lot more of a broader picture of, okay, this over here, that over there, over here, I need this, that kind of thing. And then, I was able to really start moving resources around. So instead of just throwing a log, close to where it got dropped, it's like, yeah, this is a good log to take over there because it'll bridge this huge gap and slow the water down.
Yeah,
And
Beth Emily says when you're doing the right thing for your land, it rewards you.
yes,
Yes. That is actually true. Red Flyer says the benefit of seeing it annually and being able to see the difference is good. So Red Flyer Media comes through like once a year, and she sees a yearly snapshot in April when the homestead actually looks. One of the best times to come visit my homestead is about late April, right before it gets super tall grass, but before it gets super tall grass and it's no longer gray from winter. It's actually it's the most beautiful time there, I think.
yeah, I mean, or into April, beginning of May, it's like we've hit. I mean, especially like right now, it's everything is green and exploding.
So what are you passionate about on the homestead? What do you just love doing?
I mean, I really enjoy the development of the property. Like, I know you tend to be more of enjoying the harvest kind of a deal, if that makes sense. I like setting it up so that you can do that.
Yeah, and that makes us a good fit on the homestead.
Yeah.
Yeah, like today I caught up with Tactical. I hadn't really talked with him much in the last 2 days. He's like, bed 4 is almost done. What does bed 4 is almost done mean, Tactical?
Um, we had somebody come through the other day and got a bunch of soil into it, and I was able to kind of tweak that a little bit and then add a couple of things on top of that. Still got a little bit more to add in, and then hopefully in the next couple of days I'll be able to start actually putting a final cap of soil on that bed, and theoretically it should be ready to plant in at that point.
Yeah, compost tea gets involved in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I actually just got a new air pump for that, but I've got to either see if I have hose for it or go pick up some hose.
Yep, it's always something.
Yeah, it's like the air pump that I got is a much bigger diameter hose than most of the air pumps that I run.
When you put in a day at the homestead and you get done and you're really tired, did you generally have a happy day usually?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
every day,
not necessarily every day. I mean,
most days.
there's days that are infuriating, but for the most part, I mean, especially when you come in just physically exhausted, there's a certain sense of satisfaction knowing what you accomplished.
Yeah. So what's Tigger think about all of this?
I'm not sure what Tigger is protesting about. As to Pack Rat's earlier question about Tigger's job on the homestead,
Yeah, what is Tigger's job on the homestead? It's not just to talk to us on live streams.
yeah, yeah, I'm not really sure what he's.
So in cat years, Tigger might actually be about 110 years old right now, 105 to 110 years old.
Yeah.
So he's extremely geriatric. All of us are surprised that he made it through the workshop because he's been showing us signs without saying he's in pain. He doesn't look like he's in pain. So, I've just sort of thought he might pass in his sleep or who knows. Just been keeping an eye on him. And I've been trying to make sure he stays with easy access to litter box, water, and food so he doesn't trigger a situation by being cut off from some of those things. And then I have a heated cat bed for him. Tigger is in his 18th year on the homestead, and he's been on my homestead the whole time since I moved there. He was young when he moved there. And Packrat says, Mouser emeritus. So we came down with an unfortunate rodent problem a few years ago. And what I came to realize is that for the preceding 15 years, the reason we didn't have a rodent problem was Tigger. So there are 4 cats. Well, there are 3 cats now on my property. And the 2 who were doing the most work on the rodents were Tigger and Nash. Nash passed away 2 years ago. No, Nash passed away 6 years ago. And that was Tigger's brother. And Tigger retired about 3 years ago, except as a 105-year-old man, he gets a wild hair sometimes. And like, what are you going to tell a 105-year-old cat man about his wild hairs? I'm going to say, like, go have fun. He'll go through cycles every so often where he lines up the heads in my kitchen of rodents. He's like, I'm going to go get me some snacks. And he always brings them inside, and he always meows about like he just was saying, hey, I've got a rodent. Well, he didn't have a rodent. What I think's happening now is he wants to tell me every time he's doing something. I think his hips are a little sore, so it may be that as well. But his role has been Mouser, and now he's just an old man. And when you've put in the work that he's put in, you get to retire until the end and get treated well at my house as an animal. So that's Tigger. So he fulfilled his purpose on the homestead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to spend a lot of time down in the workshop, and I still see him down there every now and then, but very rarely.
And that's where we had the rodent problem when he stopped hunting as much. So, yes, Mouser Emeritus is a great, great title. So back to the passion and purpose discussion. Would you say your purpose on the homestead has come clear to you lately?
To an extent.
Yeah. In what way?
I mean, it's just always kind of been my personality, I guess, that I've always been the guy in the background making sure everything moves. And yeah. I mean, that's definitely, I think, the role that I have filled here in what I've been here 6 years now. And so, I mean, I've referred to myself as an enabler before. Like, I've never been much on being the point guy for something. It's like I enable other people to do that part. So that's kind of where I've always seen myself fitting in the best.
And has the purpose of the Holler Homestead changed in the last few weeks?
I think it's in the process of happening.
And
I think you have a lot clearer vision on that than I do.
Yes and no. Something I heard about today was, so Joel Salatin and his wife Teresa, when they first started building Polyface into what it is today, because it already existed as something that his father had started, and he continued that work. Their purpose was to produce food that made enough profit basically to pay a salary so that they could stay doing that full time. And he basically said, like, we didn't have a grand purpose because it has turned into a grand thing. But at the beginning, their immediate focus was just like, this is what we're doing. And they stuck to that. And it took them about 3 years to make what was already there into a full-time thing. And his dad, I think by that time was ill, but was an economist, called Joel into his bedroom and was like, okay, let's sketch out, like, best case scenario, how many full-time salaries can we create on this farm? And the answer they came up with at that time was 22. And today they are supporting 22 full-time jobs. So the bigger purpose and bigger vision came after the first piece was done. So I would say where we're at on the Holler Homestead is we achieved the initial few steps of the purpose of the homestead this year. Would you agree with that? You walked off. So I don't know if you're still there.
I'm coming.
Yeah, okay. So did you hear what I said?
I caught the first part of it, but when I've got a dog that might be getting ready to piss herself, I figured I may as well cycle them out.
Okay, so did you hear the story about how their first purpose was one thing and then it grew into a grander vision?
Yes.
What I think we did at the Holler Homestead in the last 2 months is we achieved an initial vision and it has opened up a grander purpose.
Yes.
So with that in mind, it's actually more exciting to get up every day and work on the homestead from my perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I wake up and I'm like, I got to get up because I got to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been scatterbrained all morning because, like, there's a bunch of stuff that has not gotten done that I'm making a push to get done. And I got a whole section cleared out this morning. I got another section kind of cleared out this morning. And it's basically a lot of stuff pushing in a very specific direction as opposed to just generally improving the property.
Are you enjoying the process of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Joel said he, to this day, enjoys the daily project of moving the cows and running the fence and making sure the water looks good and all of those things that would feel like drudgery to other people. But he enjoys the process, and that's part of what's made it work. If you don't enjoy the process, you might be doing the wrong things. You know, like you and I in the pasture in the middle of the night with little sheep. You know, none of us wanted to be up at 2 a.m. in a pasture outside. Most of us wanted to be asleep in our beds, but I actually enjoyed that night.
Yeah, it was a good night.
Yeah. And even if the outcome had been sad, I would have enjoyed that night. I'm glad the outcome wasn't sad, but as we're building our homesteads, if what you have all the time is frustration, that is a sign to take a step back and look at, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Why am I not enjoying it? Is it just is it a me problem? Do I have an attitude adjustment to make? Or, like, do I need to practice my gratitude? Or am I doing the wrong thing for my purpose on this homestead? And I know every time I get frustrated with what I'm doing with Nicole Sauce Industries, it's usually because I am putting a lot of work into something that is not what I should be doing.
Yeah, the caveat that I'll throw on top of that is there's always going to be, especially in the initial stages, a certain level of I hate my life. When I'm down there replumbing the water system for the 4th, 5th, 8th time before we've actually gotten that system panned out, because we're in the initial stages. Like, there was a lot of that towards the beginning, but as time goes on, it's like, oh yeah, I'm not really sure when the last time I actually spliced something into the plumbing in the pump house was.
Oh, you said the words. Yeah. So it doesn't mean you don't have frustrating moments. It doesn't mean that you don't get exhausted. It doesn't mean that you don't get poop on you, because all of those things happen on a homestead. It doesn't mean you don't lose your favorite animals from time to time to whatever. But I think when you have the passion for what you're doing and you have some more clarity of purpose, that gives you a reason to push through those times. Like, even when the pump house was breaking at the seams, which it had done for the previous decade before you got there, actually 13 years before you got there, or 15 years or something. It had gotten progressively better the whole time, and it happened less often, but it still happened. And now it's happening way less often. It doesn't mean something isn't going to break down there, because it's mechanical. Something's eventually going to break down there. But having that clarity of, like, I know this can be better if I just update this or update that, helps you drudge through the times when the stupid fitting that keeps breaking because of the vibration in the pipe pops off again and nobody has any water right before an event, for example. Something that used to happen before every event, it felt like.
Yeah.
So we've just gone through our first spring workshop without a plumbing problem.
Do we have plumbing problems last year?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
This is the first time that we did not have a plumbing problem.
No, we just had a door problem.
That's different. Yeah, Beth Emily is applauding. Anyway, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because you and I don't, like, we have these talks, but we don't have these talks online ever.
Yeah.
And you and I haven't touched base in this regard much lately. We've been talking a lot about what we want to build next.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking a lot about that over time on the podcast. And what has come clear to me is it doesn't have to be as clear as I thought it had to be. I just have to start.
Yeah.
And I think it starts with the event center camping stuff beyond what we can do at my homestead.
Yep.
So that being said, I'm at Polyface, where they've had 40 years to figure this out. And I'm going to take all sorts of pictures of what they did over 40 years, some of which has been done since 2021 or 22 when I was here last. I think I was last here in 21, but it might have been 22. So, obviously I want everything they have tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we all know that's not going to happen. But it's been interesting to see the genesis of how they started with events in a high tunnel. And now they have the building they built for the events, the first presentations, is pretty cool, the pavilion. And it's clear they've put a lot of thought into, how do you have airflow so it doesn't get too hot under here? How do you keep the rain off people? And they've used trees from their own property. So I'll send you pictures of that. It's very cool.
Yeah.
But they also have, like last time I was here, that wasn't even there. And they've been serving food to tons of people from this tiny little commercial kitchen building they put in, that's a tiny cabin converted and an outdoor grill the whole time. The lesson from that is, if your purpose is to gather people and to do events, you don't have to wait until it's perfect. You have to start gathering the people, because you will learn from the process how it works best. And I think that's the lesson it took me a long time to figure out on the homestead.
Yeah.
With that in mind, tell me, what are the ducks doing? I hear they've been playing hide and seek with some eggs lately. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, we were down to like maybe one egg a day, and I had a whole conversation about the fact that they were about to go to jail, and the next day there were 8 eggs. So I don't know if they're giving me bribe eggs to try to stay out of jail, but
How many did you get today?
5.
5. Okay.
So I think they're still laying somewhere else, but I'm also in the process of bushwhacking a bunch of weeds that have not been hit this year, and I know for a fact that there were at least 2 nests hiding in those weeds. So we'll see if that helps out a little bit.
Did you leave those eggs there or did you collect them?
I think I tossed them because I have no idea how old they were.
Okay. From a scraping food out of your homestead perspective, guys, if you find a nest like that in your yard, I can actually smell a rotten egg through the egg. So what I do is I smell them, and if it seems like they're rotten, I can tell, and then I don't mess with it. But if they're not, then I will take them inside, candle them or float them or something and just see, and then crack them individually. And if you're low on eggs anyway, usually the majority of the eggs in a nest I've found that hasn't been there for a really long time are perfectly fine.
Yeah,
That's one of those not for your customers, but for home use only sort of deals.
Yeah, a lot of the ones that I saw definitely looked like they'd been there for a few days.
Yeah. I mean, they can last for a few weeks out like that. The thing is, at this time of year with the temperature coming up, they will start incubating on their own, even if a duck is not setting on them.
Yeah.
Which is why you might want to candle eggs like that too. So, and we've basically stopped letting ducks set eggs, haven't we?
Yeah, that has not really worked out too well with the current setup.
Yeah, we need a different kind of duck yard for that to work, and it just hasn't worked. It works at Spirka's house, I think, because his land is flat and he has a chain link perimeter fence. So the predation coming in is a little bit different at night, because even with our dogs, you know, a raccoon can get there if it really wants to. And if they're closed in the coop at night, which they are, then it's not a problem. But if they're sitting on a nest of eggs exposed, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's time to breed more rabbits. Have you put the female in with the male?
No, I did think about it, but I have not gotten around to that part yet.
Contrary to popular belief, just thinking about it does not get the job done. Definitely not making more rabbits by thinking about making more rabbits.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a list of priorities, and that one's not at the top right now.
It requires a physical act of moving a female rabbit in with the male.
Yeah, and moving the sheep by tonight also requires a lot of work. So, and that's necessary.
I'm just giving you a hard time because every time we do that, we have more dog food. So somebody today was, or yesterday, Amani was asking me about processing rabbits for dogs because they have a bunch of babies at her farm. And, you know, they're processing them to eat, but there's only so many rabbits you can eat, and they have a lot. And they have livestock guardian dogs. And she's like, we just haven't gotten around to processing them. And then when you leave rabbits around, more rabbits happen. That's sort of one of the laws of raising rabbits. And so she was asking me just about, you know, processing, how do we get it done? And I said, well, what we do is we dislocate the head from the rest of the body to dispatch the rabbit. And then we put it in a freezer bag and we freeze it. We don't take the fur off. We don't gut it. We make sure it's actually all the way past so that we don't do something unpleasant to a rabbit. And we put them in the freezer. And then when we give them to the dog, if it's the middle of the summer, they often get a rabbit sickle. She's like, you just give it to them frozen? I'm like, well, I mean, it is probably more appealing to the dog not frozen, but sometimes we haven't thought enough ahead, so they get a rabbit sickle. And by the end of the day, it's no longer a rabbit sickle. So
even at that, I think it was last year we had the sheep in the barn for a deep freeze threw rabbits out for the dogs. Like 3 days later, I go out looking for Max because he's not in the barn. Go looking everywhere for this dog. And the short version of the story is I found him out in the middle of the pasture, sprawled out, belly down in the snow, rolling around, gnawing on a rabbit popsicle. It's like 3 degrees outside. And this rabbit has to be frozen solid, but he's just sitting there having a grand old time gnawing on the thing. Like,
So the reason we started doing that, guys, is that dogs in the wild will eat the whole animal, including their guts and their fur. Their digestion is set up to do that. And that's part of how they get the inoculation for their gut microbiology, which something I didn't realize is proper microbiology in your compost, in your stomach, they're the same. And in the stomach of a rabbit is what a dog needs to make their intestines work right. And so when you just let them eat the whole thing raw, it's fine. And the ratio Joel Riles gave me was half a rabbit a day, but that means 1 rabbit every other day if you're going to keep that going. And it makes it a lot easier to process it if you're not like cutting it up into bits for your dogs or grinding it for your dogs. So,
yeah, they're going to eat the entire thing anyway, so there's absolutely no point in, like, preparing the rabbit. Like, literally, the dog's happiest day is when I drive over there with a bag that has 2 rabbits in it. I open it up and drop it on the ground. They each grab a rabbit and walk off.
Yeah. I mean, if a rabbit dares to come into the pasture, I'm pretty sure they get helped along as well.
Oh yeah, that's one of the most exciting parts for the dogs of going to a new paddock is going to see what's in the paddock.
Yeah, Red Flyer Media says dogs can process their own food. That being said, if you can process the rabbit for you, you do want to gut it and skin it and take the feet off. And one of my favorite ways to cook rabbit now is to saute up garlic and onions till they're really like browned. Sear off the rabbit bits and then braise them with about a cup of white wine. Add in spices like sage or basil is really good. You can even chunk in some tomatoes, and it ends up almost being like a rabbit stew, but not quite a rabbit stew. You braise it for about 45 minutes and then just serve it that way. Salt and pepper to taste. It's a very delicious way to do it. I know a lot of people do rabbit stew. I love rabbit stew. Rabbit stew uses the meat the best, I think. This way you can put the rib parts, but I like just like the front and back legs in this method. It's really delicious. So if you're just using rabbits for dog food, like process a few for you and see how you like it as well. Because I think rabbit tastes good. Does that make you want to process one of those rabbits so I can cook it now?
We've got plenty of good food. I don't know that I want to process a rabbit to that extent with everything else going on right now just for that.
Yeah, we could do a rabbit processing class and it would force us to do that.
Yeah.
We had so much processed rabbit in our freezer until recently that we just literally were doing rabbit dog food until we caught up on that. We're down to no rabbits in the freezer. So the next round, I might suggest we process 1 or 2, put them in the freezer, and then we'll have them. But that probably means I have to help with processing, huh?
Probably.
But, the 2 rednecks get their cycle going with the rabbits and it works out really well. This last weekend, I went to the farmer's market and picked up squash plants because I was just going to put squash seeds straight in the ground. And I probably will do that too in garden bed 4 with the beans. But I was like, oh, I'll buy some of these squash plants. And he knew I had extra tomato plants. And so he's like, just trade them for the tomato plants. He hasn't been by to pick them up yet, has he?
No.
No. So That was kind of a cool homesteader drug deal that just happened there. And the only thing is, I'm probably not getting him his tomato plants until I get back from Polyface, unless you go to the farmer's market with them tomorrow. You want to go to the farmer's market tomorrow?
I might.
Okay. Well, if you do, bring all those tomatoes and give them to Mike.
Okay.
He's the guy who, like, they usually do the freeze-dried food, but they're not doing that right now.
Okay, I know who you're talking about, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he'd love. Make sure they're well watered though, because he's there for hours.
Yeah.
So how do you know when it's time in your garden to succession plant from early spring to late summer plants?
I actually don't do a whole lot of that. I mean, I've got my AP set up, and sometimes I'll have some spring stuff in there, but not usually. And I mostly just keep garlic, green onions in there to keep it going. And then once summertime hits, or springtime hits, I'll throw some peppers and basil and stuff like that in and just let it go until it doesn't.
Okay. Does that mean you want somebody to succession plant it for you, or you just want to do your thing?
I mean, I don't think there's much point in succession planning that system. It never really set it up to do that or to be that. It was just something to have, mostly like, some peppers and green onions right outside the door. So when I'm cooking down there, I can just like walk out and grab a couple of peppers or whatever. But it was never intended to be like a huge augmentation to what we're eating.
That makes sense. By the way, the redneck basically just cooks with onions and peppers, for the record.
Not necessarily.
He eats squash too.
Yeah.
Well, so the way I know it's time to succession plant is pests come in. So I've had the least problem with pests this year ever. And I think that's because I've gotten really more focused on the soil quality, and that makes the plants more resistant to pests. So when I was harvesting, so I got broccoli this year, which was amazing. And I was like, I'm harvesting the broccoli. There's no bugs on it. It's like straight up clean broccoli, which also is hard to do in the Tennessee area. So I knew I was doing something right. Well, I went out there about a week and a half ago, and there were bugs all over the broccoli. And what that means to me is that plant is now stressed, and probably why it's stressed is it got hotter than the broccoli wanted it to be. And the plant was getting of a certain age. It had already been harvested a few times. So for me, that's a sign it's time to succession plant. And so I started putting things under it for about a week. And then I just whacked it all out, and we composted that broccoli straight into bed 4. So the way I know it's time to start succession planting, besides the calendar, is the bugs are telling me it's time to succession plant. Like now that we've got the pests more under control in the garden, because I used to have big pest problems in the old days. The bugs are telling me it's time. The plants are telling me it's time. So we now have the eggplants out. All the peppers except for one are planted. I don't have that many pepper plants out because I don't have that large of a garden. And I've got about 5 tomatoes I still need to put out in the garden, as well as the last piece of tomato wall that goes in front of the house. That are we putting that together this year, do you think, or is that?
I would like to, but I have not even thought about trying to get to that yet.
Yeah. So all of it takes time. So why aren't you keeping up on the grass?
Don't get me wrong. I'd rather have rain than not. There's been a lot of rain. There's been a lot of heavy rain, which A, everything is exploding, and B, makes it really difficult to run a mower when, you're scared to drive across the wash on the mower because you might get washed into the creek because it's ripping so hard.
Pack Rat says because there's no HOA.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, so Tactical walked in. He said, "Don't take this as I don't want it to rain because I want it to keep raining, but I just want 2 days back to back with no rain so I can catch up on some things." And some of the things he wants to catch up on are grass. On the other hand, like, remember when we got the sheep that year in June?
Yes, and we went 8 months with no rain, and I was
It was
walking around with a 5-gallon bucket of water to pour on the ground so that it would be soft enough to be able to put a step-in post in. I remember that very well.
Yeah. So he doesn't want to go back there. But the grass has definitely been out of control. That being said, I have an amazing amount of sheep food on my property right now.
Yeah,
So, and they're rotating through too. Like they're happy about it.
yeah,
So,
and
so
I mean, my thing is like we got enough of a break in the rain that I was able to take the mower over like I think it was 2 days ago and plow over where I need to put fence lines um for the next couple of paddocks for the sheep, which was really nice to be able to do that because plan B was I was going to have to do that with a weed eater, which would have sucked.
yeah. He's
Which I
also decided we need 2 weed eaters on the property.
Yeah, and I know that that part sucks because I did all of the initial clearing of those paddock lines with a weed eater, so I know exactly how much that sucks.
Yeah. That is initially how you did it. And one of the things, so Tactical has become more happy with his day to day at the homestead in the last few weeks, but he reverted to unhappy redneck the other day. And this is how this went down. I'm at the house getting ready to whatever. I think I was getting ready to do my show or something. And he's like, "You may need to come down here and help me with my sheep." That's what comes over Zello. And I was like, "Okay, do I need to bring anything?" Because I'm like, is it medical? Is it like they're out? And then he said something about a shotgun and sheep out. And I was like, "Oh, somebody's mad at the sheep right now. And if he's trying to get them back in mad, they just are alarmed by him in general. Even if he's trying not to show it, they can tell you're mad." And so I was like, "Okay, well, I'll come down there." And I get about 3/4 of the way there, and he comes out and he was like, "If this keeps happening, they're coming back to your house and they're going to get the shocks of their lives from the fence because I have they're on an electric like a battery system down there, but they're on the actual electric grid at my house, which means the shock that gets delivered is significantly stronger."
Yes, it is.
And ask Tactical how he knows that.
Yeah, I've gotten nailed by both. Some people are like, "Oh, how could you use an electric fence on your sheep?" I'm like, I get shocked more than they do.
Yeah, it makes him mad when he gets shocked. So that was one of his frustrating days, but I think by the end of the day you weren't frustrated.
Yeah, that was a situation where one sheep was out, and in the process to trying to get that one back in, two more got out, and they all went the opposite direction and refused to go anywhere near the fence. And I'm trying to keep the rest of the sheep in. It was just irritating.
Yeah, I think the most of his source of frustration on the homestead, besides me, is the sheep getting out.
Yeah, I've still got a reel that I've got to fix from one of the last times they got out and actually broke part of the wire.
When they break the wire, do you knot it or do you have to do you do all new wire?
It depends. Usually what breaks is the smaller piece that I have on the end that's non-conductive. So I just have to splice a new piece back on, which is what happened with that one. And in that particular case, I actually, because there's an insulator in a tree that it was attached to, so I just knotted the actual wire onto the insulator. And then once I actually got them off of that paddock, I pulled that reel and brought it back over here because the drum on that reel also needs to get replaced.
The drum?
Yeah, it might have gotten run over with a four-wheeler.
What's the drum? The round part?
Yeah, the part that actually holds the wire.
Okay. That's what I thought. It might have gotten run over by a four-wheeler. Maybe. Perhaps.
No, it definitely got hit by a four-wheeler, but it was a choice between hit the reel with the four-wheeler or roll the four-wheeler, so I chose to sacrifice the reel.
Ah, sads. Sads. Okay, so you're starting to lay out garden bed 5 and 6. And guys, the reason he's laying out beds is we've moved my whole gardening space from zone 2 basically to zone 1. And that means it's a whole new garden for me this year. And we went raised beds because it seemed to make sense. So what are we doing with 5 and 6? What are you thinking for that?
We've got the beds assembled. They're not, completely ready to get installed, but they're at least, put together. And the spot where those are going, when we had the excavator out one of the last times, he basically just plowed a semi-flat spot. But me being as OCD as I am, I've got to do a little bit of digging to kind of tweak that spot so that 5 and 6 are going to be level with 4 and 5 and also in line as opposed to like off to one side. So I've got a little bit of digging that needs to be done. It should be relatively easy. So this morning, or yesterday and today, I went through and essentially went scorched earth with all the grass and the weeds in that area so that I could see. And then this morning, I took some mason line and a couple of fiberglass posts and staked everything out roughly where the bed's going to be so that I know where exactly I need to dig. So
go ahead.
Hopefully that'll go up pretty quick.
Yeah. And then my plan with those beds is to turn them into compost piles. I'm not planning to plant in them this year. And so I was kind of thinking, do we want to do coop litter compost pile, or do we want to make it sort of the food/wood chip compost method and then put fencing over the top so the dogs can't get in?
I've got a feeling it's going to be yes.
Okay. So I have an idea for how to put fencing over the top too. You and I can talk about that when we get home and decide if it's worth the effort. But I feel like if we do that, because I can compost all the stuff out of the garden with some wood chip or sawdust as we go, because we're totally out of leaf litter, and that'll make a nice bed. It's just going to be it's going to be one of those compost piles that develops like if you were baking a cake and kept opening the oven and put batter back in.
Yeah.
But I also have the King Strophoria mushrooms, and we could actually layer one of those to grow mushrooms just for the fun of it. And the process of growing mushrooms breaks that down into soil.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll get mushrooms. It may be a little late in the season for us to get a fall blooming, but it might not if we beat feet on that. So we'll see.
And we'll see how far I get with this weekend, because as soon as we get done with this, my first priority is to get over to the pasture.
Move the sheep.
Yeah.
Why do you need to move the sheep as a priority on the Homestead Tactical?
Today I need to move them because people are coming out tomorrow and the sheep are in their way.
Oh, okay. It's not because if you don't move them, they're going to go over there anyway where the grass is greener?
No, I put them on the paddock they're on right now 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And that's got enough food for at least 5 to 7 days.
Did you just put them there because it was easy?
I put them there because they kept getting out and there was already a bunch of other problems, and it was easier to just move the rest of them. And so I just went on and moved them.
Gotcha.
And it also, if if I didn't move them over to that paddock, it was going to get skipped entirely in this rotation. So at least putting them on there for 2 days, it's getting grazed a little bit and getting some fertility added for 2 days as opposed to 0 days.
Yeah. Plus, that grass is going to be really tall the next time they come through.
Well, it's getting mowed as soon as they're out of there.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one struggle with not being able to keep the rotation on its actual schedule, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's more of that's more of an issue right now than it normally is because of construction that's happening over there.
Yeah, and construction is going to continue to happen there.
Yeah.
So that's something we should think about long term.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling those like really nice lower 3 paddocks are going to be completely off the table within a year or two.
Maybe.
Yeah. We will see.
We'll see.
Yeah. Have you liked the flavor of the sautés we've been having out of the garden? Like we've been eating vegetables exclusively out of the garden, guys, this last, I don't know, month or so.
Yeah. I mean, it's been good.
Yeah. Have you noticed a nice garlicky flavor in there?
A little bit.
Little bit. No, not really, Nicole. So garlic scapes have been coming on, and I was really pissed because I was going out of town, and there they were, and I'm like, oh, great. So I go out of town, the garlic scapes come on, and what usually happens is it lasts for exactly 1 week, and I'm gone that week, and they get too big and chewy, and I can't use them. So I harvested everything I could, told Tactical he could totally harvest those while I was gone. He did not. It's okay. But they've actually been sort of parsing themselves out a little bit better this year, so I was harvesting garlic scapes for like 3 weeks. And at this point, I've harvested all the garlic scapes. There might be 2 or 3 out there that have popped up again. But for those of you who've never raised garlic, if you do a hardneck garlic, it puts up like a flower. But before it puts up a flower, it puts up this like the stem, the flower is going to go on. It has a little pointy part that would ultimately open up into a flower. And if you harvest that stem before it does a full circle, you can cut it up and it's like a lightly garlic flavored green bean texture. So that's been in the saute. I have been putting Swiss chard. We've had a lot of Swiss chard this year, which we grew from seed. So this year, usually I've just bought the plants because I didn't do my seedlings properly. This year it's all from seed. The plants have been way healthier because they were in good soil that we made there the whole time. And then we've also had fennel coming on. And I've been just dicing up the whole fennel. And that's been our typical saute every night. Would I love to add peppers to that? Yes. Is it pepper season? No. I've added some longevity spinach and some other things I have coming on and peas from the garden. And it's just been delicious. And surprisingly, Tactical hasn't been like, would you stop making that same saute every night? He just keeps eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're going to be transitioning now into squash season, and I'm not going to be getting squash off my garden yet. So hopefully they'll have some at the farmer's market starting pretty soon. They usually start getting it in June. And I will actually put squash seeds out in addition to the plants that are out in the compost pile. We have the squash in the compost pile. And maybe I'll get some this year, maybe not. We'll see. And then we transitioned into cucumber tomato salad season, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You get sick of cucumber salads, don't you?
A little bit, not by much.
Yeah. I'm going to do a little bit of thinking about like, how can we make, because I always just sort of make that German style cucumber salad with dill a lot.
Yeah.
Which I really like. But I'm thinking about like, how can we make some other flavors? Because the other one I did last year was tomato, cucumber, and balsamic vinegar, and that was it. And that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But just coming up with some other cucumbery salad mixes that work well. Cucumbers are really good on hot days to help you stay hydrated.
Yeah.
So that's a good lunch salad, actually. So
Yeah.
anyway, if you have ideas for that, let me know.
Yeah.
How many different kinds of cucumber salad did you make when you were doing that in the old days?
Like basically one because I didn't do it that often.
Ah, okay. Yep. If we have a good cucumber year, we're gonna dive into some fun with cucumbers this year. That
Yeah.
sounded wrong. But yeah, we're gonna do cucumber salads. I just made you laugh, didn't I?
I'm actually thinking about eggplants.
Good. Anyway, guys, that's everything I've got on my list. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? You want to talk about baby rabbits getting out of their little boxes?
They have definitely hit the point to where they're actually spending more time out of the nesting boxes than in.
Yep. It's time to put them in the in the rabbit tractor I didn't build yet.
No, I mean, fortunately, we do have space in the other one.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can put them there. I have some ideas I'll talk to you about when I get back about some things we could do to get them on the grass a little bit more, but it
Okay.
requires management. So it would have to be like, I agree, I'm doing the rabbit management today. And if tomorrow's busy, then they're not going out there.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we want to try that and if we trust our dogs to be around that.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm basically putting out rabbit pens, but just for the day so they don't have time to dig under and then move it the next day.
Okay.
But yeah, as I said, it requires me to be paying attention, which means if it's a show day, I shouldn't do it that day. Yeah. But I have non-show days now, so I have a little bit more time. That's everything I've got going on at Homestead, guys. I can't wait to get back home this weekend, and I'm going to be home for the whole month. I mean, I guess I am going to go visit a few things, but I'm not going to be gone for significant time and potentially only one overnight the whole month. So that's exciting for me because we're going to get into some stuff like fixing the freeze dryer and it's canning season. Like, whoa, I'm very excited about it being canning season, as a matter of fact, obviously. So the first thing we can is pickled beets, and it's time for pickled beets when I get back, I'm pretty sure. If you go to the farmer's market and Norville has a whole box of beets, buy the whole box of beets and I'll pickle them on Monday.
I'm going to the farmer's market. You better be talking to me the day of.
Well, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Text me, though, because I can't really hear it at Exit and Build Land Summit because there's stuff going on. I'm also speaking tomorrow. So if you try to talk to me while I'm speaking, I will not talk to you because my phone will not be on me.
If I go, I'm going early.
Yeah. Well, I don't speak till 1:30, I don't think. So yeah, we could do it. We could figure it out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you got from the homestead?
Not really.
Cool. What were you about to say?
Oh.
Okay. Every time I interrupt him, he loses his train of thought. It's the way of the homestead. Anyway, guys, if you like the show and want to support the work I am doing here, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee at hollowroast.com, or you can become a member. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.